Hey all. I'm a fan of a certain type of reality show. Not so much the realities that are supposedly unscripted, though even those are pretty scripted. Shows like My 600-Pound Life and all those home renovation shows, or Naked and Afraid, those are pretty obviously scripted in one way or another. Why, just Naked and Afraid, the name of the show is scripted. While the contestants are obviously naked, the spectators are protected by that Gaussian blur around their private parts. My 600-Pound Life always follows the same pattern, an obese person getting out of bed trying to clean themselves with attendant Gaussian blur, though in this case there is little to hide. The overhanging flesh does a pretty effective job. Getting their first carbohydrates shoveled into their maws while they explain their dissonant childhoods, the abuse, the sources of their addiction to food. In any of these realities, the treat is when the real-life person somehow steps outside of the structure, the script, does something you don't expect, behaves in a way contrary to the setup we've been given. The realities that I really enjoy, though, are those somehow related to crime, to events that involve the police. You know, that plethora of murder shows that lead us to believe that enough beauty queens, mean girls, and residents of Orange County, California, are snuffed to make entire seasons of episodes. These are shows that are heavily scripted. A story is told. There may be some participation of the real-life people involved, but their interventions are often carefully recorded. Ring lamps illuminate, backgrounds have been chosen, words edited to contribute to the storyline. It is the idea of a storyline, I think, that gets me engaged. There is a real event, a murder, a disappearance, a crime, maybe an engineering snafu, and the show is designed to take the viewer or listener through that story from beginning to end, with proper exposition, rising action, climax, and denouement. There is no pretense at peeking through the keyhole and watching like a little big brother as the actual participants go through their parts. You are invited to watch and listen. As I wrote the script for Scrapbooks, I included myself in the cast of characters. I am Junichi's grandmother, the simple Japanese housewife trying to bring a family through a difficult post-war existence. She's not got all the beauty queen killers and Killer Beside Me and deadliest mums and dads to watch after lunch. She's only got the newspapers. She reads them each day and clips the stories of local crimes, pastes them into a scrapbook, makes her own reality episode based on prints and photos. I see Haruka as a boy sitting on the floor under the thick comforter covering the heated table, flipping through any one of the several scrapbooks his mother has put together, imagining the story around the scant information that the press has been allowed to share with the public. I see him reading about that bank robbery that ended with a dozen bank clerks dead. Banks, where his father worked for a pittance, where he would begin working in his early 20s, also for a pittance. Haruka took his cue from that first bank robbery. Though he was not one to poison innocent people, it was not the fault of the bank clerks that so many regular people had to live in poverty while bankers accumulated wealth. This he knew, again, from his own and his father's working experience under those bankers. Haruka did want to strike out, though, at his employer, at the large corporations beginning to build wealth at the expense of lowly workers, giving them meager wages and that special bonus at holiday time that was meant to make them think that they were appreciated. Haruka knew that they were not appreciated at all, that they were being used. Haruka recognized the trap. Work hard, be servile to the enterprise, collect your money, save what you can. Get married to whoever will have you. Take out a mortgage that will make your house 3 times as expensive once paid for, after all those years working hard, being servile. And if the boss says so, drink the venom-laced tea and drop dead. Haruka didn't want that for himself. He certainly didn't want that for his sister, Suzume. Suzumi could not be saved, though. She was a girl, then a young woman. She was never going to be able to step outside of the script that had been written for her. Haruka probably made the decision to carry out his own peculiar robbery right around the time that Suzume became engaged to that man, much her senior, her way out of the family home, into her own particular trap, to begin her own family, though small, with the young Junichi. Junichi could have also fallen into the trap. He almost did. Despite having his education paid for from the start to the finish by his wealthy uncle, Junichi did get married, though the union didn't last long enough for him to have children. Junichi became, like his uncle, a kind of loner, though Junichi did keep with his mother and his grandmother, something Haruka found difficult to do. And Junichi stepped away from his own script when he discovered that Haruka had been the mysterious bank robber who had fooled the security guards and cleverly faded into the collective memory of the nation while Haruka's mother collected clippings as the case waned on. Did Haruka's mother know that her son had committed the crime? Though it seems that Haruka had had no contact with his family once he moved away, we do know that his mother frequently visited him. She even gifted him the 2 scrapbooks, the 2 reality shows of strange bank robberies in Japan. Haruka, who never had visitors, who had become a true hikikomori, had an extra set of slippers in his entryway. His home smelled of his mother. The two may never have spoken about Haruka's part in that second robbery, or they may have, and in the end, it is the scrapbook that matters. A through line in the first 9 stories of Keyhole Witness is the press. Some of that line comes from using old newspapers in my research for the stories. Not so much in scrapbooks. There wasn't all that much English press coverage of the incident. Yet, as I researched each of the 8 episodes written exclusively for this season, I found myself not only reading newspaper reports on my subject, but observing just what the press was like. I say was like, as I mentioned last week, I chose somewhat historical real events to inspire my stories. I was reading newspapers from the late 19th century through to the mid-20th century. I skimmed headlines on contemporary politics. I read want ads. I looked at snake oil ads and laundry detergent publicity. And I realized that little has changed in the press over these decades. Sensational sells. Well, those are my thoughts on scrapbooks. For me, a touching story of 2 lonely men who were never able to connect, though they ended up more connected than either of them expected.
Listen, like, subscribe, and share.